welcome to the lap guide video. My name's Bart, and today I'll be taking the FIA4 car on iRacing around the Tsukuba circuit. Here's the hot lap. Alright. Alright, so going down the main straight now, it's Tsukuba, not a very long main straight. First things first, I know it's technically the last corner, so we'll be getting into this a bit more later on in the lap guide, but at the start of the lap, you should be fully off the track here. There is no off track as far as I know. I'm sure if you dip on the dirt, you can get one. If you're on this green runoff area, you will not get an off track. There is a bad bump about here. The curb in general, it's not as flat as it looks, and so the floor of the F4 car will bottom out on it, and it kind of slows you down a bit. You can see this where this second bit of the curb is around where the start of this is a bump kind of here. So I'll kind of slow it down a little bit. You can see there, it goes through a bump now. That's worse if you're further to the right. So if we can stay left of the curb. So I know you want to bring it over a bit to, not run off the track here, but just keep that in mind. If you run over this, it can easily cost you half a tenth, and that's a mountain of time on such a short track. So that was just something I thought that was probably worth knowing. So now getting into the actual start of the lap now. Tsukuba, turn one, probably the hardest corner on the track in my opinion. So we're getting it out of the way nice and early. Second gear, very, very long right-hander. You can call it a hairpin, I guess shape-wise it is, but it's a bit more tilted than that, I think. So braking, car should be full on the left. No real braking reference on the left-hand side of the track, which makes it tricky, especially if you're very reliant on braking markers. Sorry, but you're just going to have to get over it on this one. So yeah, the last mark you really have beside the track is this. It's obvious. The slip road here, so definitely braking after that. And I guess if you can see parts of the wall as well, you can say, well, this is a bit of the wall back here. Depending if you have triple screens or ultra wide monitor or whatever you're doing, you can probably braking around here between this gap in the wall and this one. But look, my suggestion is stay on the left hand side of the track, so your nose should be to the left of this marshal's hut and fully on the white line. But look in here, just look in there, and the braking is going to be just something you have to learn over time, and just brake as we start to crest the hill here. It's not a very long braking zone. So initially hitting the brake, you can see it's not super hard. We have to be fairly efficient early here. Same reason as any other track with this car. If you're not on the brakes nice and early, hard at the beginning of the braking zone, in the early part of the braking zone, then you're probably going to end up dragging the brake into the corner, so maintaining more brake pressure as we turn in, and you're going to lock up and lose a lot of time. So making sure we get to the peak pressure quite quickly, 60-70% here, maintaining that in a little bit just on a straight line. Then just as we start to turn in, there's a bit of a crest on the track, and we'll see this as the lap goes on. Generally the middle of the track where you have this line here, there's kind of two lanes, piece of tarmac. There's a bit of a crest in the middle of the track. But more than that, there's also a bit of camber into the inside here. As we go over this crest and this kind of bump as we go up the hill, it's not much, but it's enough where as we turn, we need to come out of the brake a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to lock up if you try and carry the brake pressure. So down to third gear initially, and then it's kind of a late down change to second. My suggestion is aim to be here. This is where I aim to be when I look into the corner. This is kind of your slowest point, the corner. It's not actually on the apex on the inside curve. It's around here somewhere, and then you'll kind of come past the inside curve. You shouldn't be necessarily hitting it, but getting very close to it around here somewhere. But yeah, I'd look here and then look to around, keep looking around the corner and then look up for the exit. So you can see now a late downchange to second. If you downchange early to second, two things happen. One, you kill the speed, so you lose a lot of the momentum you have in what's a low-powered car, so you don't really want to do that. The other thing that really hurts you is you can easily lose the rear end here. So this corner, biggest two, the exit's not actually that hard, right? But the biggest two killers for this corner, so being the hardest corner on the track, is holding too much brake pressure in. Usually done because you either brake too late or you didn't put enough brake pressure on initially when you first hit the brakes. Then you'll get that front lock in, you'll just understeer wide. So that's the first thing to watch out for. The second thing is you're carrying a lot of speed, you come out of the brakes and you're just fighting the rear. You can get this massive snap of oversteer when the rear starts sliding around just before this point in the corner. So watch out for that. If you're doing that, then you just need to bring everything back a bit. Just bring everything back a little bit earlier in the corner so the car's not like you're not sliding the rear as much. Also, it might mean you've run a bit wide because the grip level in here is a lot grippier than this part of the track. It's a bit dirty and less camber out here. So a few things to watch out for there. So you can see I kind of meet the inside here, but this isn't, and this is kind of why I'm not a big person for like, okay, hit this apex curb. That's not really what we're aiming for. I've missed this curb and still had a fast turn one. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest thing, like I said, getting the car nicely positioned here, keeping it fairly, not being too wide. Don't go wide and then cut back here. Stay tightish the whole time. Stay in the camber. Roll the speed in. And then just as you start to get towards the inside, you can see the camber at this point in the corner. Get on throttle. Focus on pushing the car all the way to the exit curb. Fairly aggressive throttle pickup. You can feed it a little bit initially, so you don't have to stamp on it, but the first bit, get to like 50% or so, and then feed it. Force yourself out into this exit curb. It's not going to hurt you unless you run like the middle of the car over it, which you don't want to do anyway because then you're on the grass. But you can use all of it. It's pretty easy to use. So these curbs here, they're also quite tall. Watch out for this. Don't be silly and cut this, because if you run the bottom of the car over that, you will slow down. Same as this bit and a few other curbs on the track, so watch out for that. Just run your left tires here. Important to position ourselves as well as possible. Might not seem like much, but at this point, really important, okay? To try and open up the entry into this long left. So right-hand tires should be fully on this curb. What we're trying to do is do two things here, which we'll get to in a moment, but we're trying to not only open up this left-hander as much as possible, so get towards the right-hand side of the track. We're also trying to get the car flat or as straight as possible in the braking zone. So to achieve those two things, we should be flat until we hit the brakes here. This isn't one of those braking zones where you're like part throttle, trying to bring the car over or something like that. But you can see here, it's not normal the direction I'm facing. I'm not fully on the white line or in line with the right-hand side white line at this point. I probably could if I wanted to be. I could get on this curb more. I could turn the car more and point that way. We're not going to go over there. Two reasons. One, the track doesn't go that way. Like, I'm not really interested. It's not really going to gain me anything. Also, the grip, like it's a dirty part of the track, a bit like we talked about turn one. And the camber is in low. So yeah, the grip is much more on the left-hand side of the track. Okay, so we're pointing in this direction. Now we get the car straight for where we want to be braking. So again, I'm looking to meet the inside curb or get next to the inside curb around here somewhere. But the braking zone is this direction. But all these hairpins on this track are very similar in terms of they're kind of, you want to point towards where you want to be, in the middle of the corner almost. And then come off the brake and roll the car into the cambered phase of the corner, because they're all cambered hairpins and the car should just hook up, and it's all about rolling the speed through that phase of the corner and helping yourself get a good exit. It's not so much about these like traditional hairpins in some ways where maybe you cut back a bit, go deep and cut back a bit. So be straight when you hit the brakes here. A lot of brake pressure, like 89%, straight on it. Be really aggressive with that first hit of the brake, really aggressive, because as soon as we reach this crest, you've got to come out of the brakes. See how quick I dropped the brake there? Go down to like 30%. If you maintain the brake pressure here, you will lock up. It is unbelievably easy, super easy to do. One of the easiest corners, I think, on iRacing to lock the car, lock the front tires on this car. So please watch out for that. Best thing, like I said, is initially hit the brakes hard. I'm pretty much hitting it where it's pretty obvious, this part of the curb here where it's starting to turn or finishes turning. good reference. Have the car pointed into the cambered part of the corner where you want to be in there, so we can brake dead straight. So we can decrease the chance of locking up as much as possible and push the braking zone. Hard on the brakes. Down to third, come off the brakes a little bit, and then again wait for second gear. And we're almost like 20% brake, not much brake at this point, just trailing into the corner. Then we should be able to drop the brake just in the middle there, roll into the camber, and then as you drop the brake, apply the steering lock, get on the throttle, and then get off the steering nice and quickly, so we don't slide the rear. You don't need to hang on to this cambered phase, just get in for this bit, and as soon as you can get off the steering now, when you get on throttle, start to just point the car out to the exit. Use all the track there. You can use exit curve, that's no problem. It's just I usually run up to it. I feel like it doesn't gain you too much, and you're usually just you're busy repositioning anyway. Because there's not much time here. Get back fully to the left-hand side of the track. Don't be lazy. Get all the way back here. So using all of this, it's more important, okay, to be full on the left here than fully on the right of the previous corner in terms of the exit, okay? So that's super important to keep in mind. Get over to the left, you can hear basically on the limiter in third gear at this point, don't shift to fourth early, don't short shift. With an open setup, sometimes it can work, I think. But on the fixed setup, it's way too understeery and you'll just kill the momentum, so don't do that. Third gear, lift. You can see I don't really fully lift. I go down to about 20% throttle. If you lift fully, you just turn too well, and you kind of slow the car down too much. So we want to maintain some throttle at this point. Down to 20% now. Again, get into the camber. Don't hit the inside curb. I found if you hit the inside curb and you get on throttle, it kind of just spins the inside tire, unsettles it a bit. You probably won't spin, but you just don't really go anywhere. Just costs you momentum, costs you time. Even though it can help turn the car, it's not beneficial. So just try and really looking to get into this groove in the white line in the camber. Quickly lift, back on. Just first and carrying the momentum there. Use all the exit, okay? All the way up into this left exit curb. Try to avoid running all the way out into the exit at this point, okay? If you do that, you're going to probably end up on this bump on this exit curb and end up making this left-hander too tight. And yes, I know it's a flat-out corner, but when you're going like that, and then that in a low-powered car, and all this load and all this steering lock going on, you're just killing the momentum, okay? So force the car out wide, but don't be silly. Keep the car to the left, just nice, smoothly turn. You don't need to run all the way out to the right there. It's just kind of just extra distance at that point. Okay, positioning for this hairpin. Last slow corner on the lap. So, it kind of between the previous two hairpins, okay? So we're not fully on the white line, like when we initially hit the brake at turn one, and we're not fully kind of pointing the car into the camber like we were on the previous one. We're kind of in between the two. So I'm kind of aiming there at this point because that's kind of where I'm turning in from. You can see this bit here really drops away. So we go from this flat bit of track or slightly uphill to really cambered. That's where I'm pointing. And that's where I'm going to kind of start dropping the brake and turning in from carrying the speed into the corner. What I kind of use to line up, not only looking at this point here, again, it's that the middle piece of the tarmac, or so I say the joint between the two pieces of tarmac. At this point, the corner where the rubber is a very good reference to have. But apart from that, you see the curve of this bit. I just try to be in line with kind of the green bit here. I know it turns that way, but the direction it's going at this point is also kind of a nice reference to have, but it's not perfect. I just prefer if you just look to where you're going. In terms of braking reference, it's also a good braking reference because you're braking pretty much when this straightens up. Very consistent. You can even use this tire bundle, in terms of where we're pulling the nose of the car as well. Hit heavy brake pressure, heaviest braking zone on the track. This really attack the brakes, 99.5% brake pressure down to second gear. More simple than the other two corners. This is more of a traditional hairpin, so you're just going to be hitting the brake, maintain the brake pressure, bang, 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 down the gears, really just focus on getting the car stopped. The car's not going to want to lock up as long as you keep your steering straight, okay? Don't start turning in until you get it stopped and properly slow down to second gear. Now we've reached the camber part of the corner. You can see just as we're going into that, I start dropping the brake. Now down to 30%, now we're down 10%, and now we're coming off the brake, okay? So here's your braking in a straight line. Come off the brake, get into the cambered phase, rotate the car, just stay in whatever you do. Try and roll as much speed as possible. You don't need to be fully on the inside curb. Just don't go outside of this join here in this phase of the corner. If you're wider than this, then you've rolled too much speed or you've locked the brakes or something along those lines. need to bring it back a little bit. So turning in here, roll the speed, use the steering lock. Just after you do that, get on the throttle. Because it's low powered, you can kind of keep the steering on for the first bit, and then slowly let the steering go. Use all the exit curb. Again, very flat curb, just use all of it. Important for lap time if you're going to maximize this exit. And then the last corner, quick right-hander. We talked about the exit a little bit at the start with the bump. So quite a tricky, deceptively tricky corner. I actually had quite a bit of trouble with it in this car. So I think the reason why it's a bit trickier than you might think is it's just slightly longer than you'd want it to be, if you know what I mean. It's not really like a short corner. It's not a super long corner. It's somewhere in between. So it's sometimes awkward to find, you know, where you want to brake, where you want to aim for, where you want to position the car. But this is what I found was pretty effective. So white line as we're going down the straight here. So we give ourselves the best opportunity to open up the whole track. Turning in as I'm still on the throttle, okay? That's really important. Don't brake until after you've started to turn in. I know that's not normal, but that's what we're doing here, okay? Turn in, hit the brakes, not very hard, quite soft. If you brake hard here, if you try and really focus on just braking as late as possible, attacking the brakes, you're just going to lock the fronts or upset the car. It doesn't work in iRacing, especially in this car, so not really going to help you a whole lot. In a corner like this, you're just going to kind of upset the car. So just try and be slightly earlier than what would be as late as possible for you to brake, and just have a nice soft brake here where you let the car get into the corner. Again, see how we're in the inside lane here. So if we run past this inside lane, so past this join in the tarmac, if you run left of that, you're just going to lose grip. So try and get into that. That's the first objective. I'm always looking here. Strange place to look, I know, but I'm looking here when I go into the corner. That's kind of what I'm looking at as my slowest point, is about now. And then I look as I go into this part of the corner. Now I start to look for the inside curb. We don't want to hit this curb. This curb's huge. It probably won't spin you, but it just upsets the car and loses you time. So you don't want to hit this. It bounces you wide, usually at the lift out. So we just want to get as close as possible to this without hitting it. So I'm looking to tuck in right up on the white line next to it at this point. So nice and soft on the brakes. Keep it on the inside part of the track. You should be able to roll the speed in here, yeah? Soft brake. Now, as you come off the brake, like every other corner, just start to put the lock on now. Wait for the car to rotate. As you start getting closer to the inside curb, that's when you get on the throttle. That's your cue, okay? You need to push the car away. You can see I changed to fourth. Actually, that's the other thing as well. The fourth down change, so changing from fifth to fourth is quite late. I'm doing that, past the pit entry here, so quite late in the corner. Picking up the throttle just as I go past this green bit of AstroTurf on the inside before the inside curb starts. And then just by picking up the throttle, I managed to keep the car from touching the inside curb. And you should force yourself out, look up. I know it feels like we're going to go off here, but we've got to make sure we use all the track, not just all the tarmac, but all this runoff area as well, okay? So force yourself out wide in fourth. You shouldn't need to go fully off on the green. Again, you can risk an off track if you go on the dirt, part of things. But put yourself on the left-hand side of this red and white curb so you're not running over the curb as you cross the line, because that's where the really bad bump is. But that's pretty much it for Tsukuba, and that's the end of the lap. So that takes us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below and I'll try and answer those. And you can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. My name is Bart and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.